Yeah, so the shift, I mean, for me, it was an 8-year journey. You know, I mean, it's, and you guys have all come in a little bit more recently.
8 years.
8 years. Starting with Mr. Ken Carpenter, who signed up about 1.5 years ago. Yep. And, you know, he was really the piece of the puzzle that was going to get me to the other pieces. As a first-time filmmaker, I was really, really cognizant of that I needed to get somebody who had some experience that I don't have, to help produce this movie and to secure a cast.
Did he act like a first-time director?
No.
No.
He didn't actually.
No.
Did you think that he did?
Yes, I did. Every take, I thought, boy. No, Brock, I keep on saying it was your infectious enthusiasm, but the detail to which you conducted everything. You had a fantastic partner with Ken to make it all come to fruition, but what you did was pretty magnificent. In the time we had, the budget that we had, the schedule that we had, all the stuff we had to do, you cranked it, and we are all the better for it, so thank you.
Brock knew his story. He knew the movie he was making, and it's what attracted me to the project in the first place. But I read the draft, and I said, that's a strong voice. That's a confident voice. And then as I got to know him, okay, this guy, he will walk in prepared. And I think that's the experience we all enjoyed.
That's actually what you said to me on the phone. You called me up with the offer, and you're like, all right, here's the deal. It's a first-time director, which I didn't mind, actually, because I think, Neal, you and I come from the same school of thought of like, hey, if there's a vacuum, we'll fill it. Like,
that's right.
I think you and I have been acting long enough to know if there's a weak link, we could be like, well, you know what, we're good. We know how to, you know. And so I was like, that doesn't bother me. But then your selling point was, he's been with the story, he knows the story, and when you read the script, you're really going to be, and I read the script in an 1.5 hours, standing in front of Biltmore House wearing a tuxedo for this other thing I was doing, and I mean, like a fever dream. I read the thing in an 1.5 hours, saw the whole movie in my head, and was like, yeah, I'm in. This would be a dream job. Yeah.
I'm glad that you guys feel like I didn't, you know, that I was not a first-time filmmaker, that I didn't give off that vibe. I really am. I definitely felt, especially a little bit intimidated, knowing that you guys, being familiar with your work over the years, I think as any filmmaker is, a little bit intimidated. What are these guys going to be like? Are they going to treat me as though, okay, kid, you know, I mean, I'm not a kid, but, you know, relatively speaking, but what you just said, we got it, you know, like we got it. We don't need you so much, you know, just get out of the way. Let us do our thing in front of the camera. You guys never, ever made me feel that way.
Good.
Not once. I mean, I always felt like just the tremendous amount of respect from you for my position.
You know, who was the old interviewer, the old guy? Was it Dick Cavett?
Dick Cavett,
Dick Cavett. And there's a great interview with Orson Welles, and he goes, so Orson, you're 26 years old, you make Citizen Kane. How on earth? And he's like, because I had never done it before. I had no idea what I was doing, and no one told me what I could do or what I couldn't do, and I didn't know if I was breaking any rules. I said, you can't have the background and focus? Well, I want the background and focus. When you go into an environment with people that you can trust and collaborate with, Neal, brother, I loved our day one. It was like straight from the pan right into the fire. 9-page scene. This gentleman has lines like I've not seen in a script in a long time. And you and I had to jump right in and find trust with each other, build that bond with each other. And I think it was around like 1.5 hours, I gave you the nickname, was it Mad Dog McDonough?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
It was all of a sudden, we just instantly were brothers, and it was kind of like, all right, we're in this together, mutual respect, and I think it was layered and layered and layered, and I'll never forget.
All because of that first day.
Yeah, and you prayed at the top of the top of the movie, which I had so much respect for, and I thought that was a really classic, something I've always wanted to do. And you had the courage to do that and showed me how that goes.
Well, it's easy to have that courage when you're in that surrounding. You know, Angel Studios gave us that surrounding, that we're allowed to talk about our faith without worrying that we're going to upset somebody. You know, in this day and age, it's hard to talk about anything that has anything to do with faith, because it's just not the cool thing, it seems, right now. Well, thank goodness for Angel Studios and films like The Shift and, you know, brainiacs like you, Brock. We get to have these stories out there for people to watch now and think, wait a minute, there is hope. There is a chance. The world isn't just so dark. There is light. And I couldn't be happier to be part of something like this.
What was a joy was to see that you didn't miss the uniqueness of those 5 weeks. Like you were fully in it, but you're such a lover of cinema and of the art form. I know you don't like sports analogies. This guy does.
That's right.
You were in the middle, so it's a good bridge. You're a bridge.
You were called up to the big leagues.
Yeah.
And you fully embraced it, and you walked well in it. And we've probably each seen directors not walk quite so handsomely in that situation.
Oh,
but,
I've seen people melt.
Yeah,
lose it.
Yeah.
And just the film literally is taken from their hands.
Yeah. Back to where we started, by one of the great things about surviving day one, 9 pages of
Surviving
dialogue
day one.
is that after that day, we all knew, well, we can tackle whatever
Oh yeah,
is thrown our way.
No, it's true. And everybody...
Had it failed.
Yes.
Oh yeah, no, that's
Wow.
and that's why you don't do that. What we did
Yeah,
is not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to take one of your easier days, your lighter day, ease yourself into it. You've got a crew that's never worked together before. You don't know how that's going to work.
Way to go, rookie.
Yeah. Well, I knew it was a bad idea,
yeah.
but the restaurant was only available that day. So
Yeah.
so
Put
there
your
we
head in the
go.
lion's mouth. You had our respect from day one. And
I loved that it was the Super Bowl the very first day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go with the sports analogies again. Because it sets a tone for everyone that if your guys come out swinging,
Yeah.
the rest of the crew is like, well, now we know exactly what this movie is. These two guys are going nose to nose, and I can't wait to see where this goes to.
Yeah.
These two guys brought it. The director's all over it. The producer's right on set. Everyone's in a great positive spirit. This is going to be a great shoot. And then it just rolled after that. But right out of the shoot, everyone knew what the film was going to be about. It was very serious. We're all in this to win it. Let's go make a great film for him. And I hope we did. I think we did.
we did.
Initially, you rejected this. You didn't want to play this part. What
Nope.
changed your mind?
Reve. You called in and we talked about it and talked to Matt, and I'm like, I can't play the devil. That's just, I'll play villains. Because I won't kiss a woman on screen, so I have to play villains or war heroes in the middle of a war. No women around. And so I went home and Reve says, you look perplexed. What's going on? And I told him what's going on. Oh, all right. Let's really pray about it and think about this. There's probably no one in your business who's better at being a villain than you. And you're also probably closer to God than any guy who's playing a villain. I think you have to play this part. And she was right, and I'm so thankful for her wisdom on that, because not only did I get to meet all you guys, now we're part of the Angel family and all these other, but I got to find out as a method actor more about me when I delve into certain characters. And this character, we talked about it, turned the devil into this 8-year-old tempestuous little kid who just didn't get that candy bar. And by making him human, makes him so much more accessible, because he's the greatest salesman of all time. And he can suck you in. I'm doing everything to suck Kevin into my world. I'm going to win. I'm going to win. When I don't win, that's when the humanity comes out of Lucifer. And then there's a moment in the film, and I don't need to see it because I know what happened, was this emotional thing where I looked at you with such jealousy that how can you love him so much?
Right.
Because he doesn't love me because he lets me do all the stuff that I'm doing. This just, and as I think about it now, I get emotional just thinking about it, because it was what goes through your mind as an actor to get to that spot is just, it makes me realize how blessed I am to have the wife, the family, everything that I have in my life. So I can't thank you guys enough for bringing me on this journey. And I mean that.
And I'll second what you just said, and I saw that scene today. And unlike you, I like to see things because I forget a lot of, I forget a lot of the moments or the ennui. And your performance was so crucial. Like 1 minute, you have this almost savage, thing on your face, and then in a split second, you have this little boy hurt, and then you go from, again, this come on, seducer to someone who's about to cry. And watching all of it and seeing these two, because I started to disassociate from Kevin watching it today. I was like, well, that's not me. That's literally at one point I was like, look what I did. I was like, that feels weird. I was like, look what he did. Like, not me. There's some reactions, and I was like, It's beautiful, and there was a line about, you'll probably know it better than I do, but where he says, what was the line that I love so much at the end where he's like, the worst thing that I've done, I'm not the worst thing that I've done.
Oh yeah.
I'm all, and
I'm not the worst thing.
And it was just this, like, it spoke to me, and I was the guy in the role doing it, but it was so separate that I was sitting here watching the scene today going like, people are gonna, because when you see grace, when you see forgiveness, and when you see the choice to love over, and this idea of, which was something that we worked on that day, which I loved because we'd bumped, and you said something so
I had to write a new line that day because you couldn't.
I was like,
couldn't get there.
I was like, I can't make this thing work. And you were like, you know what's so funny? I rewrote this whole thing except for that line.
Yeah.
You're like, it's
it was
so
the one
weird.
line that I knew was bad.
No kidding.
I knew it was
He's like,
bad.
it's so weird that that's the line you're bumping on because I've literally rewritten all of it except for that line. And I was like, well, and it was this idea of if I choose you, which is the idea of Kevin choosing to go along and be in relationship with Satan, then, which actually was choosing her, the love of his life.
Right.
Then that one little simple choice is going to lead this waterfall, this cascade of just being in a relationship with you versus being in a relationship with God. And it was so crystal clear that in the playing of it, you get a little lost in the weeds as an actor where you're like, I hope this works, I hope this is all, but man, it flies, dude, and your performance it's awesome.
Thanks,
it's
brother.
really wonderful.
I appreciated so much too that you guys both, you didn't at the same time, you said the words, but you felt the words, and that meant that other words sometimes would come out. And those ended up being, of course, some of my most favorite things in the film. There is it's a heightened situation, but there's a naturalism to the way that you guys did your roles that makes it feel more real. And some of that naturalism comes from, maybe you can talk more about what that process is, but to me it just felt like you had ingested those lines and those roles so much that you could see there was a freedom in your performances to where you would do little lines here or little looks or just things that were not in the script that are now in the movie because they felt real, because they felt natural.
What did I say to you that first day we met? Do you remember?
No.
Because you don't swear.
I don't.
And
I don't.
Unfortunately, in the Angel headquarters, this young man does on occasion.
We've got some great bloopers.
Oh, I'm sure.
I've heard a couple. Choice ones.
And I used a 3-letter bad word, and I said, you can kick my, and I said, go for it. Do you remember that? I was on day one. I said, I want you to kick my hiney.
Yeah.
Like, go ahead and kick it.
And I think I said okay.
Just, and you're like, I will, okay. And I was like, dude, I'd drag me through the mud. Let's do this thing.
Yeah.
Because as an actor, you're rarely given the chance to be broken. You're rarely given the chance to leave everything on the field and to go the distance and to say, I really have given everything. I can't go you've got everything. And then be asked, well, we need you to run another 100 miles, and be like, okay. Because television is not, he said the pleasure of looking into another actor's souls and being able to take this time to find the moments and to really, you don't get that in television. You don't get that in, even big budget movies where you've got the time to wait for the sunlight to move off a building, but oftentimes it's not about finding stuff in actor. It's like, this was a really cool, for me particularly, like just a really once in a lifetime opportunity. And I've said this before, but I'll say it here. When I was a 14-year-old boy praying to God that I could grow up to be an actor one day, this is exactly the kind of role that I was praying for. I'd be like, Jesus, I want to be able to run. I want to be able to be an action guy. I want to be able to be, and like all of the things to like, because it was emotional and there was heart. And you're talking about a man who is willing to go to the ends of any conceivable universe for the woman that he loves. Yeah. And it was just, it's a gift, an absolute gift. And I was honored to do it and honored to work with you.
And that day is such a great example of the ownership that you took of the character. Because there was a moment that day.
Are we bringing it up? Are we talking about it?
We'll bring it up. But
this guy, he says, let's do another take on everything. Let's do another take on, is this what we're talking about?
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
And and I'd be like, well, you want to? Don't we have more stuff to do? We have 67. He's like, no, let's do another take.
Well, and because it was a giant scene. I mean, as big as the first day was, that day was as big.
Yeah.
It was the final confrontation, the final scene.
And this guy was
I'm
give me
I'm
one
just seeing the clock. I'm seeing this giant clock, and it's ticking. And if we don't wrap this thing up, there's a whole bunch of stuff that we need that we're not going to get a second chance at. I see a good take. I'm like, Chris, let's shut it down. Let's move on. And you were not happy with me.
You took me for a walk. We said, hey, I need a minute.
Well, and in all fairness, you looked at me, and there was the unspoken. You looked at me, and you said, "Are you all right?" And I said, "No, I'm not." And then so we had a conversation, and I think at the same time, in your heart, you were having a conversation. You handled it amazing.
Sean Astin pulled me aside too.
Did he really?
Yeah, he pulled me aside, and he's like, "Hey, a little piece of advice here. When an actor is asking, you might want to give it to him."
Oftentimes, as an actor, even though your instinct is to do the thing you know is right, your body just does this other thing. And you're like, why am I doing it this way? And I played Wrath. Mm-hmm. And I played this thing, and there was a couple reasons I was responding, and I was doing this thing, and all these things were being kicked off. And it was the wrong reaction.
Yeah.
And I knew it. And so when you said, okay, we're good, I was like, and I think I was like, can we do one more? And you're like, no, we're good. And so I think what I was mad about was the no, we can't go one more. And I was like, because I knew, and then what happened was the next take, and we did it in 2 takes, and the second take was, and I just kept thinking, like, how would Jesus love the devil?
Yeah.
How would Jesus respond?
You played the love.
How would Jesus respond? And it was just with compassion and love and like what you showed me today. Yeah. I'm glad we did this.
Well, now it's one of the most, if not the most beautiful moments in the movie.
Yeah.
I have another fun memory from that day. I'm at the back of the room at the temple talking to Mr. McDonough, and I see out of my peripheral vision one of our co-collaborators signaling to me that he'd like to meet Mr. McDonough. And I say, Neal, this is Dan, our composer. And you were very kind. And Dan said, I love your work and, all the pleasantries. And he walked away. And I said, yes. And Dan was lead singer. He's in a little band called Jars of Clay. And the movie star lit up like, are you kidding me?
So cool.
And you ran him down.
So cool. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah. You're like, wait.
Funny, though. As I'm so stuck in character, then I was just out of character in a second. Gone.
You're joking.
That's right. Yeah.
What you hope for is that a film has legs and ages well. And I think you're part of some projects that they just don't age well. You're like, ugh. And it gets kind of. But then there's some movies that stay relevant and they end up on people's queues to watch again and again and again. And I think that would be my hope for the shift would be that it's a movie that 10 years from now is still a part of the conversation, is people's favorite movie, and is something that is a feather in all of our caps.
I wrote the movie that I wanted to see because I hadn't seen it before. That's where it came from. What is out there currently is in the faith-adjacent, faith-friendly, faith-based space, I think has been somewhat limiting, somewhat limited. And I think there's room for a lot more stories. There's a lot more stories we can be telling.
For sure.
And I would love to see more of those stories in 5 to 10 years. And what an amazing thing if one of those filmmakers did say, I saw this movie, The Shift, and that made me think differently about it.
How amazing to make a movie that if you're a sci-fi fan, you can go and see this film and you're going to love it, and you're not going to feel like you're getting smacked on the head with a message or an agenda. And
right. Yeah.
And if you're if you're a romance, if you happen to love the romance genre or whatever, and you can abide sci-fi. There's that as well. It really is a powerful movie with a powerful message, and it's told in a way that I think everybody, regardless of what story you believe, you're going to love it.
We connect to each other through stories, and we talk a lot about that and how important stories are. And when you write something or you create something and it means something to people, I mean, that's, as an artist, that's the best kind of moment, when you're making that kind of connection with somebody. I am just grateful to be sitting here today on the other side of this thing with you gentlemen, knowing without any doubt, having the evidence in front of me that we cast this movie well, we put the crew together well. I'm just so grateful to you guys for just giving your hearts and souls to this project, to these roles. I really am.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brock. Thank you.
It's such an honor to work with you guys and to have the affection that and to get to play. Like I said, to be a grown man and get to go to work with a bunch of people and pretend to be, jumping through the multiverse. It's
Pretty awesome.
Not a bad way to make a living.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, fellas.
It's a gift.
Thank you.
To the sequel.
To the series, to the multiverse movie, to the show. We can make a show. We can.